Details about the day when you were wounded, you know?
Possibly, okay.
Like just what the situation was, you know? Why these Germans were firing mortars at you, and how you got evacuated, and things like that.
Well, we went in on the 15th, you know, and probably one of the, you know, I was in the first wave that went in on the 15th, and we really had no opposition, or very, very little, because of it being the first wave. The fire and the bombardment of the Navy and the Air Force was tremendous. And by the time we got to the beach, you know, they were just had to be almost demoralized, and we had very, very little opposition. And we went in probably 8, 10, 12 miles, you know, before nighttime. And as we headed out the next day in the morning, it was probably 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and we just moved out, and we got hit with mortar fire. And the mortar fire fell very close to me, but only one piece of shrapnel hit my leg.
Okay.
The wound wasn't that severe. However, it's bad enough that they could not operate it, you know, the medics. So they sent me down to the hospital ship, which eventually took me back to Naples for care. And because of lack of attention, gangrene had set in. And I was in and as they looked at it, they thought they might have to amputate my leg below the knee. But they gave me penicillin, one of the early people that got penicillin in World War II, because it was only invented, so to speak, in 1938. And Churchill had it, we gave it to him for his pneumonia he had in 1942. And it just became available to the armed forces in 1943, I believe it was. So I was given penicillin, it cured my leg, and a month and a half, 2 months later, I went back to duty in France.
Okay. And how did you get down from the place where you were wounded to the hospital ship? Because I guess that was already about 10 miles or so, eh?
First of all, I went to the medic, and one medic, yeah, I don't exactly remember where they took me, but down to the water, and put me on a boat of some sort, and took me out to the anchored hospital ship. And I was able to walk. It was painful, but I walked. And because of the lack of attention, gangrene set in. And I don't even remember how long it took me to get from getting on the hospital ship to Naples. I'm not sure how many days it took. Probably 4 or 5, I'm guessing.
Okay. So you didn't need a jeep or anything, eh? You could just walk back by yourself with a bit of help or something?
I was able to walk, yes.
Okay.
The shrapnel got behind my bone, and they had to operate to get it out, and the medics couldn't do that. The field hospital hadn't been set up, and because of the newness of the invasion, and they quickly put me on a small boat and took me out to the hospital ship.
Okay.
I was there, and the pain, you know, became more and more severe as time went on because the infection was beginning to build up.
And the moment when you got wounded, had you been spent the night in a foxhole, or had you started advancing again? Like, what was happening when the Germans opened fire on you?
As I recall, we just started moving out in the morning, and we had dug in the night before, and we were preparing to move forward early the next morning. And as soon as we got back out on the highway that we were on, they began to shell us with mortar fire.
Okay.
And I don't know if anyone else was wounded at that time or not. I don't know.
So you said you were on a highway though, eh? When you were wounded, or near a main road?
It was. I mean, it was on a highway. It was a probably a two-lane road, and because our vehicle was able to ride it, so and exactly where we're going from there, I don't really know.
Okay. And when you were wounded, were you still very on the coastal road, or had you gone into those mountains that they have there?
We were back on the highway as the mortar fire came in. Then of course we all ran to cover, and the first shell that landed, I got a piece of it, and so of course I found cover as soon as I could, but then I realized that I had the wound in the leg, and as the shelling stopped, I went back to find a medic, who in turn took me down to the waterfront.
Okay. But what I mean is, there's a highway that goes all along the coast there. You know, were you on that highway, on the coastal highway, when it happened?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Okay. Because basically the way the terrain is, it's you have the sea, then you have the highway, then it's immediately these mountains that go up. So you were still just along the coast there.
That's correct. Yes, I was in around. I would say in 10 miles from the water.
Okay.
So the beach wasn't that deep at that place.
Okay. And you mentioned you didn't know if anybody else was wounded, but I sent some names to your daughter. I'm not sure if you saw them, but I have the casualty report for August 1944 of the 141st, and 3 guys from L Company were killed on August 16th. So I suspect it was probably in the same event or just maybe a few hours later. But you're not aware of any of them.
It could have been a second wave. I don't know of anyone killed in my group as we got off the beach, because we were the first wave that went in out of, I think, 8 waves went in. So it could have been the second wave or the third wave. It's usually the second wave that catches heck. You know, the first wave sort of doesn't have the damage because the opposition is sort of wounded, you know, and not unconscious almost from the bombardment of the Navy and the Air Force.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But these guys were actually in L Company, you know, so I suspect they wouldn't have been too far from you. Like, one of them was called Willard Meek, and the other one was Thurman Edwards.
Yeah, I gave, I don't have the note that I gave my daughter, but yes, they were in, one was in